digitized by photovicons.
Thrived on textile exports, and paisley pattern shawls became famous right around the world. Lorraine Webber has been finding out more from the Paisley Buddies.
It's a town with a strong industrial past. Paisley prospered in the 18th century through weaving and thread making, and the town became known worldwide for its imitation oriental shawls, whose trademark teardrop design became known as the Paisley pattern. This weaver's cottage is one of the few reminders left of Paisley's prosperous past. Built in the 1750s, it's been painstakingly restored by the Old Paisley Society.
This row that we're in just now was built as a row of weavers' cottages. We're the only weavers' cottage left in the whole street. Everything else has changed, different uses, mainly pubs and restaurants.
There are signs everywhere of the huge role textiles have played in the town's past.
When I worked in the mills in the early 50s, right up to, I think it was 1961 I left, there was 5,000 people working in the mill I worked in Ferguson Mill. And over at Anchor, there was the same amount. But there was engineering firms in the town that serviced the mills. There was people who did the labels. Virtually the whole town was centred around the success of the mills.
Thread mills closed in the 1980s, but the unique lives and experiences of the workers inspired a series of novels on the town's past.
They had a great pride in themselves. If you were a Paisley mill lassie, you knew who you were. Everybody knew who you were. They made friends. They went in at 14, and I've spoken to women who have walked into a senior citizens club at 80, and somebody's pointed to them and said, "You work beside me in the mill, I know you." Somebody said to me, "You're never without friends if you've worked in the Paisley mills."
A point echoed by former workers on a visit to one of the landmark old mills, now in the process of renovation.
Started off as a boy pushing the wheelbarrow, and then I went on to become a tenter looking after machines. Went to the war, came back after the war, continued tenting, and then they made me a foreman for my sins. And I worked at that for about 8 years.
We were born virtually into it. Come the age of going to work, we straight into the mill. And that was about 15, we would join the mill in 1939. And went on without any, from that date, except with the exception of going away to services, been in it until 1981.
It was when we come back from the war. That's when we appreciated the young ladies. Archie he was a wee bit more stiff than me. I was more of a Don Juan. I kind of chased them round about.
Wages were good and the mill ladies were always well dressed.
My husband was an apprentice at White's that made the machine, and I was earning more money than he was at that time. And we had what we could get after the war, and everybody one after the other, and it was lovely clothes we all had, and we were really well dressed.
And the spools of thread manufactured there had another secret purpose: styling hair.
We had no tongs, we had no hair dryers, and we had no rollers, we had nothing. And the spools were just a great length, so we had them we used to put them in our hair.
Next month, a museum opens at the Mile End Mill. It will be a reminder of the town's rich industrial past.
I want my children and my grandchildren to know my heritage, because my mother, previous to me, and her mother, previous to that, worked in the mills. So I was the third generation, but unfortunately, it's demise now.
There's a joke that they said that Paisley was the largest village in Scotland because everyone seemed to know everyone else. And there's a lot of truth in that even to this day.
Lorraine Webber on the life of the Paisley Buddies.